Everybody, welcome to the UGA Sports Live podcast. My name is Roddy DeBulsa. I'm joined by Dave McMahon to my left. We're here at Classic City Eats in Watkinsville, Highway 15, just south of the railroad tracks, Greensboro Highway. Come join us if you want to have a great meal. Also joined on the show by Dane Young. That's his given name, but we won't talk about it. We won't tease Dane about his name. And, of course, Jake Roos, who also has a nom de plume that he writes under, and, of course, Hall of Famer himself, Jim Donnan, the main reason everybody's tuning in. But this week, we have a little bit to talk about more than just the Georgia team. We have to talk a little Georgia recruiting. So we're actually going to kind of turn our channel. Normally, the first thing I do is I talk about some of our sponsors, and I go straight to Coach Donnan to get his take because that's all anybody cares about is what Coach Donnan's saying. But this time, Jake actually gets a little of the top billing today because this past Sunday, the folks at Rivals brought their camp series to Atlanta. So we were out at Lambert High School, and we saw a ton of Georgia targets out there, including one Branson Robinson, the number one running back in the nation. Came all the way from Jackson, Mississippi, just to be in the camp. And, of course, he picked up his five-star invite. We saw Justice Haynes, Veron's son. Saw Drew Bobo. Mike Bobo was even out there, of course, because he can go because Drew is out there. He just watched his boy. Tons and tons of Georgia targets out there, guys that want Peter Woods, number 5 player in the nation for 2023, was there. Braden Joyner, Oscar Dell, Rojo, Antwi. I mean, just absolutely. Anyway, I'm trying to steal all of Jake's thunder before we can talk about it. But Jake, before we get into the talk about some of our sponsors and talk about the great food that we're about to eat here at Classic City Eats, go ahead and hit the people up because they want to. We don't want to give away all the good news we have behind the paywall at UGASports.com, but we do want to let some folks give them some information that came out of the camp.
Well, I'll wet your chops a little bit with the Branson Robinson news because we're going to put the video up later this week of the full interview, and you can really see how he responds to a lot of the questions. Paul recorded it while I was talking to him. So sharp kid, enjoyed speaking with him. I'm going to throw it back to you real quick, Roddy. What was your impression when you saw that kid walk in?
I feel like I was having a flashback between Isaiah Crowell and Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I mean, just from a physical standpoint, the first time I saw Isaiah Crowell at a track meet, as a 9th grader, I believe, 9th or 10th grader, Anthony Dasher and I, we just turned to each other like, so, I mean, I've never seen a kid that jacked up. Kind of remind me of Jeff Luke back in the day, linebacker out of Florida. But when you're talking to him and you get around him, that is people keep comparing him to Nick Chubb and his, just strength, the guy that deadlifts 720 pounds. But just build-wise, he looks, size-wise and just structurally, he looks like Nick Chubb and responds and talks like him. So, your initial impression when people say, "Oh, Nick Chubb clone," you think it's almost a lazy comparison. It's spot on. It really is.
Yeah, in this instance, I think a lot of times comparisons get a little out of hand or put a little too much on a guy. Maybe aren't as apt. You're trying to create that touchstone for somebody. That's not the case here. This kid is a clone of Nick Chubb. I mean, he looks like him, built like him, works out like him. Like you said,
his arms. You guys are using a lot of words. His arms.
I don't know how the way that you so smoothly and casually move through. Yeah, deadlift 720 pounds. We need to hammer that one home for the people because he said that and my eyes about popped out of my head. Also, should note that is a weight class record for the state of Mississippi in high school when it comes to powerlifting. He also happened to set the total weight record with 1,720 pounds. That's in addition to a 630 squat, 375 bench. So, the numbers are pretty staggering. And I'll tell you this, he looks the part. It's no surprise when you hear those numbers come out and you look at how he's built that he can kind of throw that kind of weight around.
I want to say the first rep that we saw him run, because you think, okay, a guy like that, he's just a physical freak. He can lift a lot of weight. Power lifters can be some very stiff guys. Don't really think of him as a elusive running back. But his first play, we actually tweeted it out. He runs right at the linebacker fakes to the outside, does a spin move, cuts to the inside slant, just wide open for the quarterback. And he spun so quickly, the linebacker was just kind of searching around trying to find him. I mean, it was an ankle breaker move right off the bat. So it's not just that he's this thick guy who can, deadlift 720 pounds. He can run. And he caught a lot of passes yesterday or Sunday. So this is there's a reason we have him as the number 1 rated running back in the nation.
You said the linebacker was looking for him. I don't think he was looking at all for him. I think he was looking to get away from that kid because the reality is the kid can beat you in a number of ways. And like you said, we saw that in that rep. He's not just some big lug. He's a guy who can get out there and put some moves on you. Go watch the film. I've been watching this film now for a while, and it's unbelievable film. Very Nick Chubb-esque in the film as well. But I don't know how you stop a kid like that coming just down the pipe at you, on an inside draw. Good luck is all I know what to say. I mean, he's just gonna pick dudes up and move them out of the way. All this to say, Georgia sitting quite well with the nation's number 1 running back and Nick Chubb clone Branson Robinson. Spoke
you
really.
Forecast him yet?
I haven't yet. Now, and the reason I haven't is because he's going to take his official visits. Now, he said, and he made clear, and I thought that this was pretty huge because you don't hear this a lot, but he said, "Hey, I may just take 1 visit and be done." First visits to Georgia, FYI. And he said, if everything goes well, and I get that home feeling, you could see a quick commit. And you don't normally have guys that come out and are that frank about, the possibility of, here's where I stand and this is all I want to see. A lot of them are saying, I'll take my time. I want to see. This kid sounds ready to go. If the fit's right and it's everything he thinks it could be, I think Georgia fans could be in for some really good news on that first official visit weekend in June. Del McGee leading the way here. Kirby Smart heavily involved. I really thought it was very interesting to hear the big pitch they made about name, image, and likeness to him and how they're kind of hammering that home and bringing that in. We had a story last week that Georgia brought in a firm to kind of helping players deal with those name, image, likeness laws. This is a kid who's really tuned into that. I loved his quote. He said, "If they're trying to pay players, I want to get paid the most." So I said, I can't blame you for that, man. But a lot of interesting similarities he mentioned as well. He said, look, at my high school, he plays at Germantown High School. Said we got the big G in the middle of the field, red and black. He said we are a little bit more South Carolina Garnet than we are Georgia Red, but he said we're red and black. We got the big G in the middle of the field. He said, I feel like the coaches are like my coaches. So a lot playing in Georgia's favor here. The kid really kind of trusting the process. I know that there were probably some initial concerns when Georgia took the first back, Jordan Bryant James. Robinson was completely aware that Georgia was going to take 2 backs in this class, says he's very cool with that, is really cool with sharing the load. Obviously wants to be the man, wants to make a big impression, but wants to also keep the tread on his tires. He doesn't want to be a guy who's worn out by the time, hopefully draft day rolls around for him. And, he's also nicknamed Zeus over there. So I told him, I suggested Zeus Deuce if he ends up over at UGA. So
that's good stuff.
God.
So your nickname is Zeus, and you're a clone somewhat between Nick Chubb and Crowell. That's not too bad.
And his favorite player is Herschel Walker.
There you go.
I thought that was one of the more interesting things from your interview because it really shows how Georgia leans on that heritage of being RBU and how Del McGee has kind of taken that and run with it. I don't know if you're another school recruiting running backs how you recruit against Georgia anymore, because it used to be the backfield's too crowded. You're not going to get enough carries. You're not going to get enough love. Well, Georgia's flipped the script and said, that's a good thing for you that carries will be shared because you're still going to get to the NFL and you're going to have a longer career because of it. So when, you have a Herschel and even more recently with Gurley and Chubb and Michelle and Swift, I mean, it goes on and on and on. And Del McGee has really, I think, planted himself as the premier running backs coach in the nation.
Yeah,
Jake, I have a question for you. Why do you? I have some friends that call me up And I had no answer for that because all I saw how great Robinson looks and appears and everything. How is he not a 5-star?
Well, I think that one of the big things that was holding them back. Listen, I tell people this all the time, and we get a lot of blowback for it, but it is what it is. We try to rank kids based on draft potential. You want to rank 1 through 32 essentially, or your 5 stars, and then maybe you go a little bit beyond that. The reality of the situation is the running back position is so devalued right now in the current NFL, and the shelf life of those guys is so high that you're just not seeing a ton of first-round running backs. Now, I'll tell you this, I do think that this kid, now that he's had a chance to be in front of the camp guys and show what he's able to do against some really high-level competition. Listen, he's in Jackson, Mississippi. That's not exactly a place where people get to go see him all the time. So for him to come out to Atlanta, one of the biggest stops and one of the most talent-loaded camps in America, and to perform the way he did against that level of competition, and just continue what he showed on film, I think he's going to put himself in that conversation. It won't surprise me to see him end up as a 5-star, no doubt.
But Coach, explain it to me though. Where
him compared to the kid that committed to Alabama?
For the kid who committed to Alabama?
The running back earlier, they got the number 1 back supposedly. Didn't they get a running back earlier this year? That running back from Alabama.
There's only so many of these I can keep. Oh, Emmanuel Henderson. Yeah. I like Emmanuel's game a lot, and I think that he's a guy who, Georgia coveted him as well. It's 6'1", 185. Kind of that big, long, strong guy. But
is he a 5-star?
He's not. No, Branson's the number 1 running back in the nation. I believe he's number 42 in the current rankings. And but like I said, I think he's got a chance now to find himself in that 5-star conversation. Won't surprise me to see him up there. I don't know that you'll see him like in a 10 or 15 just because, like I mentioned, draft potential is a little bit lower for the running backs. But I think Robinson's a guy who is set to climb even higher than he already is. And he's in pretty good standing already.
And how about the guy that from Texas that went there last year? How do all these guys compare? The one that went to Alabama.
Well, Jaden Blue is, a fantastic player in his own right.
About 2020 class.
Was it Bijan?
The one that was supposed to go to Texas and Alabama got it the last second.
Now you froze me.
It just helps me to hear your comparisons there.
I'll tell you this: there's not been a back in this.
Talking about Cam Wheaton, Coach.
Wheaton. There you go. Bingo.
Kamar Wheaton.
Again, long, quick. I'll tell you this: there's nobody in the last 2 classes, I would say at least, built like Branson Robinson. There's that's it. Almost any position, to be honest. But there aren't a lot of human beings on the planet built like Branson Robinson.
Nobody in the NFL, really.
Yeah. It was funny. I was describing him to somebody on Sunday after we got back from the camp, and they were like, I said, yeah, he deadlifts all this. They said, how's his speed? I said, man, his speed's really good too. And they said, man, that kid's going to be one hell of a defensive end. And I was like, no, he's a running back. And they were like, what?
How does he catch? How did he catch the ball?
Very solid hands. And you see that on film.
When the ball was within range, there were some bad throws.
There were. It was not the best day for quarterbacks out there, I will say. But solid hands, great out of the backfield, like Roddy said, can put the move on you, can straight truck you over. I think the only sad part, if wherever he commits, I think we probably will see the last of Branson Robinson's powerlifting career once he commits to a school. I think that they're going to say, "Hey, buddy, let's take it easy on those knees moving forward." So,
Coach, I had a state of the game question just about running backs, though, because like Jake's saying, it's really hard for a running back to get selected in the first round. Really talented guys are even fortunate to go in the second round at this point. However, the last 2 national champions, Najee Harris was an integral part of Alabama's offense, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire the same for LSU. So kind of where's the status of a running back in offenses right now?
Well, it just depends on, your offense attack, but, the teams that are really winning are the ones that are throwing the ball effectively and scoring a lot of points. And I think, as you mentioned, those 2 teams had those backs that could line up and play running back, but shift out and be a slot receiver or a wide receiver. We got those same kind of guys too. But and you see the same thing in the NFL, just a lot of throws to the backs. That's what hurt Fournette a little bit, early on with the Jaguars. And then he got into a system there with Tampa Bay where they could move him around a little bit. But, the thing we all got to remember is that there's a tendency to look at these guys that we don't have and talk about them and not enough about the guys we have. And we do have a loaded running back room right now as far as production, as far as experience, as far as what they've done. These other guys, it's still out there. And I'm not going to play devil's advocate, but I'm not too quick to call, to say that there's not other programs in the country that are pretty good at getting running backs too. I mean, you look at what Alabama's done the last couple of years. The one kid got hurt in a wreck, but Henry just go right. They've had 2 Heisman Trophy winners since Herschel Walker. So we've got definitely an advantage in running back. So does Alabama. So does some of these other schools. Michigan got Edwards from us last year, but that was more of a situation where he's at home. So we'll see how all this pans out. But I'm glad to hear about it because I don't get to see these guys live like you guys. So. Y'all,
you'd love to see him, Coach, because he was just fun to watch. And I think what really whets people's appetites was the fact that they just took one tailback last year, and he's now working out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he's been converted over to DB.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this is way down the future. He still has a year, but when you're always looking for that next guy, and with
I think in this case, this is a situation where maybe the new recruiting timetable might be at a disadvantage for us because we're so far ahead right now, talking to the different people that I talk to that, you hope that you just solidify them on this one visit. But they've done a terrific job with his Zoom deal and reading Jake's comments. I like to read what the kids say. And when a coach is signaled out like Coach Del McGee is in that column that you wrote about, hey, I just feel very comfortable. We talk about a lot of different things beside football. He's a guy that I really relate to. I mean, that's a big advantage right there going in. And I know that when they were talking about, are you going to have visits in June? One of the things that was really imperative in this case was to get this guy here quickly and solidify it. So it looks like that's what they're doing. So that's all the inside scoop I got on that. But I know that they feel good about him, and they wanted to get him here early just to put the stamp on it. So the one thing that I would say about recruiting here, and we'll get back to Jake and all you guys, and we've talked about it, if there's one advantage Kirby and our staff have over anybody, I think, is just when you get a guy to campus, we got a phenomenal closeout, unbelievable amount of not bringing many guys to campus for official visits and just closing them out. And that's the strength of our program is the interpersonal relationship. And not only that, but the players themselves get a chance to take care of things and talk to you. And, those guys are going to ask the players, hey, how do they treat you? Is it the way it is? Is this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? And our players sell our program. So that's not any kind of deal where I'm No,
we saw that at the G-Day, Coach, with the players that came to town. They got to meet some of the other players out in the parking lot, stuff like that. And it was a situation where it was an official visit and the players are getting paid to, take a kid around and show them the place. They're just like, hey, look, you play my position. You're from my hometown or from my home state. And unsolicited, I guess the way I say it, was the Georgia players were actually out there talking to some of the guys, and we saw that. And you mentioned that the kids talking about Dale McGee. We heard a lot about Trey Scott Saturday too. A lot of defensive linemen, talking about how much they love Trey Scott. Guys that were talking about, hey, I've known him for 2 years, 3 years. He was recruiting me way back when, and just the, we can talk about some of the guys who were there from the defensive line, but it was pretty loaded. I do want to, before we go.
The point there, one more point about Trey Scott, because early on, it's a difficult position coming in the SEC. He went from North Carolina to Ole Miss for just a little while, and then he had the chance to come over here. But as a young coach, you're trying to establish some identity with all these established D-line coaches that have been talking to these kids for a long time. And right off the bat, you're not going to really knock a guy out the first year because you're behind. But the thing that Trey did, he started working on these kids. And I remember the one that you talked to up in North Carolina said that Trey Scott was talking to him when he was in the 9th grade. Remember when you were up in Greensboro, you said that, Roddy. And
Yep.
I think that's one thing that's, he was hungry as a young coach, and Kirby developed him on the field and in recruiting. And now he's a real force for us. He does a really good job of follow up, and the players that are here now are selling the other kids, hey, this guy can get you ready. And so that's something that Trey deserves. I know some people have been on his ass because we didn't get some guys early, but we're reaping.
Yeah.
Who's laughing now?
We're reaping the benefits of some really hard work by that guy, and I appreciate what he, his back was against the wall, and he's done a terrific job with it.
The Vault has done a big about face when it comes to Trey Scott. They've been quite apologetic toward him, so that should tell you everything you need to know. If you can get the message board people to apologize.
It's never been done before.
There should be a separate the vault page, the basketball page or so, and then there's the apology page.
The Trey Scott come to Jesus page, where everybody just comes to Jesus, realize that he's a hell of a recruiter. And again, I remember folks giving me shit that I would say, who's the kid, the big Mason Smith? I kept saying, you guys don't understand how close Mason Smith is to coming to Georgia. I'm not saying he's going to, but he's close. And it was all because of his relationship with Trey Scott. And I guarantee you those guys still talk once a week. I do want to mention our friends over at Athens 4. They have an event coming up on May 10th. Yeah, May 10th. You can actually go out there and see the new 2021 Broncos, the 2021 Ford Broncos. That the whole line's supposed to be out there on May 10th. Go out and check out the classic Ford vehicle and its reboot. You do need to sign up for it. Go to their Facebook page and let them know that you're coming. Get a reserve your spot because they don't have a ton of room. I know everybody's going to want to see this thing. So if you want to check out the Ford Bronco, I know I want to be there. It's May 10th. Swing by, check it out. It's going to be a fun day out there. It's, I think, 2 weeks from yesterday. So when you get your chance, swing out there and swing by their page and let them know that you're coming. Also, if you just want to see it, that's great. If you need to get a vehicle, I spoke to somebody on Sunday who needed a new vehicle. So look, go out see Brian and the folks at Athens Ford. They're going to give you a lifetime powertrain warranty on just about anything you buy out there. Any of their new vehicles, of course, are certified pre-owned. Any of their pre-owned vehicles up to 80,000 miles will all have the lifetime powertrain warranty. You can get a $250 coupon just for going onto their website. And of course, if you are a first responder or in the military, there's another additional discount there, or your student, current student or recently graduated, there's a coupon there. So another $250 off. So check out our friends at Athens Ford. They will take care of you. And I know that today is Tuesday, and I always tell people on Tuesday, get out your YourPie app, hit up go ahead and order your food on Tuesday because you get double points. So it's always good to have YourPie, but it's always best to do it on Tuesday when you can get double points, which will get you free pizzas, free gelato, that key lime
gelato
they have right now, free breadsticks, free salad, free sandwich, all sorts of stuff like that. It's really easy to pick it up. You can do DoorDash. Right now, you can get that chicken bacon ranch pizza they have, that specialty pizza. Try it out. I've had it. It's phenomenal. So do it now that it's Tuesday, and you're thinking, hey, what am I going to have for dinner? Easy breezy. Hit up the folks at YourPie. They'll take care of you. Jake, I do want to talk about some of the other guys at the camp this past Sunday because, we saw some major Georgia targets there. I know we spent a lot of time with Branson Robinson, but again, it's a money position there. Everyone loves to talk about the running backs,
and those
especially
arms.
at Georgia, and those freakish arms. We can talk about him the whole show, but, that's a guy who looked like he could put that,
if he comes to Georgia,
right there, just crack it.
That's my commentary for the next 3 years if he comes to Georgia. It's just those arms. That's all I'm going to say about the kid.
James Wallpaper already.
If you need your walnuts cracked in the near future, go see him.
No doubt. Yeah, like I said, Roddy, it was a loaded field, and obviously Robinson the star of the show, I think, for everybody involved, just because he came from so far away. Not many people have had him in camp. Not many people have had a chance to see him up close. And so just having that opportunity really made it a special thing for him. But like you said, tons of other talent there on Sunday, and several of Georgia's big targets at key positions as well. Kojo Antwi, we had the camp at his high school, and so I was like, this kid better show up because he's got no excuse. I know he lives around the corner, and he did, and had a great day. I'll tell you this, I am starting to waver a little bit on my Georgia pick for him. I think that one's trending A&M right now. That's been Georgia. It's been Georgia A&M pretty much consistently for 6 months now at least. I think A&M kind of garnering a little bit of an edge there. He's got some family out near College Station, so not exactly away from home in that sense. But look, Georgia's going to fight it till the end. Not a lot of clear-cut names when you're talking about wideout in this 2022 class either. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out and the role that Gunnar Stockton plays in all this, especially coming down the stretch. But Georgia will get Kojo in for an official visit. I believe he's coming in the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, that weekend that everybody is coming there right at the beginning. So that could certainly shift the tide. I'm not discounting that at all, but keep Texas A&M definitely on the radar for Kojo. I think that they feel strong about their chances over there in College Station.
What about Oscar Delp?
Oscar Delp is, I'll tell you this: he's a.
Who is he, and what do you think of him?
Well, I liked Oscar Delp, and I'll tell you this: I think he still looks like a kid. So I think that once he fills out a little bit, I think he's going to be even more massive. And you're talking about that kind of new age tight end. He's a big body. He's a guy who can get out there, make all the grabs. He's fluid in and out of his breaks. He had some not great quarterback play, that wasn't helping him out when it came to putting some balls near him, but. Overall, Delp's strong, and I think
MVP.
He was, wide receiver, tight end MVP of the camp. Pretty not often you see a tight end pull that award down, especially with a guy like Kojo there.
I think the last guy did it. Wasn't that John Fitzpatrick that did that?
It was good pull. It was indeed, yeah.
And I go back to didn't mean to cut you off there, but at the I was standing there on his third rep. He rolled his ankle. I thought, okay, that's it. He's rolled it when he took a tumble. I thought that's it for the camp. Now, guy toughed it out, kept running routes, kept cheating. So they would come back to supposed to get back in line, and he'd look over quarterback, point to quarterback, and so he was doing more reps. Reminded me of Corey Moore and Martha Herrera back in the day. They were just there'd be 10 guys in line. They'd do their rep, but they'd come back and insert themselves about number 4, number 5 in line and get back up to the front again and just run it. So this is the guy who really – it wasn't – he could have just sat back. I'm like, look, I'm Oscar Delp. Everybody in the country wants me. I've got offers all over the place. I don't need to prove anything to you guys. But he wanted to beat people, so he was out there doing his work. So it was good to see Oscar Delp out there.
And tight end is one of those positions that Georgia, when people say, oh, well, they haven't had a player drafted in a while. Georgia had a tight end drafted last year in Warner, the year before that in Nada, and this year they could have one in McKitty. So tight ends in Georgia does produce NFL-ready tight ends. And it's not just because they have numbers, because many people think their numbers aren't as impressive as it should be, but it's something that NFL players like, and that's what recruits like.
Now, I'll tell you this.
The other thing, you made a good point there, Stats. Todd Monken's a name, having been a pro coach, he registers with these guys. He knows he's been to the combine. He knows all of these assistant coaches. I guarantee you they've been wearing him out about players in the SEC. I know they ask me and I'm over the hill, but I'm telling you, Todd Monken really is a big force now for us as far as helping guys in the pro draft. I really believe that. And, unfortunately he's a force for the rest of the league too, but I think it's good that the rest of the other kids get drafted. I don't hold anything against it, but I want the Georgia guys up there. And it really is I'm going to let you guys get back, but I will say this: it really is an unbelievable amount of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Some of the questions that I get asked about these kids, hard to believe that somebody would make up some of that BS, but it really happens. And the only thing I can do is just say my own relations or what I know about it. But I'm telling you, they do an in-depth study. I wish some of these politicians would get checked out as much as these guys.
Coach, you're right, because I actually have guys reach out to me from the NFL. I mean, and not just when I'll go to Indianapolis for the combine. I'll get calls from scouts all the time. Hey, we're looking back at this story that was written about him in high school about this injury or this academic issue or this behavioral issue. What do you know about it? What's really happened? And I get that call, a couple times a year, basically before the draft.
Right.
Some guys that, and again, it's not always guys that go to Georgia. It's like, hey, we know that you cover recruiting. This kid was in the state of Georgia, or Georgia recruited him, or here's an interview you did with him. What did you think? And I'm like, why the hell are you asking me? I knew him when he was 17, he was 18. He's 21 years old. And you got 4 years of tape to look at. But I tell him what I know. I mean, I remember getting those calls about some first round guys when you're looking to spend $40-60 million on some of these guys.
Yes,
they
a lot of money.
They dot some I's and cross some T's when it comes to checking out some of these guys. I mean, no matter how vague it is, nobody wants to be caught unprepared. Like, oh, we should have checked. We just asked a guy. So I know what you mean.
University of Kansas should have called LSU about Coach Miles.
LSU has its own problems right now.
I'm just saying that's the whole point. These guys, they don't need any surprises. They got to be careful, and you only get so many choices, and you got to make them. And with the way things are set up in the NFL, it's hard to, free agency is one thing, but these kids, they're tied up for 4 years plus an option year when they get up there. So it's they got to be really careful on how they draft people.
And I think it's interesting too that we just had this discussion about the devaluation of the running back position, and then we're talking about Oscar Delp, where the tight end position is through the roof right now. I mean, that's being recruited and drafted in a way and used in a way really in the game that is revolutionary. I mean, it's changing almost daily, it seems. Even from 10 years ago, you didn't have guys like Kyle Pitts out there playing tight end. So people see what kind of weapons these guys can be. And it's not just enough to be an inline blocker anymore. You've got to be athletic enough to get out there and be able to make the grabs and be an offensive weapon in addition to that blocking. Delp's going to be, in the mix, I think, for that number one tight end spot is currently, but he's going to have to hold off another local Athens boy, and that's Jake Johnson, the LSU commit, who had himself a strong day out there. I know Coach is a big Jake Johnson fan, so
yeah, I'm happy for Jake. I hate that we didn't get in on him. We tried, but it's hard to, with his brother situation. It's hard. They've been together for so long, but he's a special talent. But along with what Dave was saying at tight end, we've gotten in Washington and Bowers the last 2 years, premier guys. And if you look at the teams that are winning the NFL, it's the teams that can throw the ball to the backs and the tight end, because everybody's got wide receivers, everybody's got corners, but they don't have safeties and linebackers that can cover these guys if you have that ability to do something in space. And that's why Travis Kelce and Gronkowski and guys like that are just making a lot of money. I mean,
and where did Gronkowski and Kelce end up? What was their last game of the year last year? Oh, the Super Bowl. So yeah, they those teams know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and so Delp, listen, a huge target for Georgia down the stretch. I do think there are some other teams at play. I'll tell you this, I think in the end, Georgia wins out with him primarily because of his family. He wants to be close to his family. They are a super tight-knit group. It's an hour down the road. You got Dylan Fairchild headed there in June. His teammate this year, a guy that he knows well, has visited Georgia with before. So as of right now, I like Georgia's chances with Delp very, very much, and be a great pickup for him, no doubt. Continue.
Let me ask you, Jake was tight end wise. Was Mike Lucky's son there?
Lawson, I don't know that I saw Lawson. Did you, Rowdy?
I thought I did.
He's he's 23 though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a 23 kid. And he'll definitely be on the Georgia radar. I promise you that.
Another guy that's on the radar, Jake, that really impressed me was Justice Haynes. That's the first time I got to see him in person, and that kid is quick. He is bright. He can catch. They could not guard him, And this kid, I talked to him. He does have a future in baseball as well if he decides he wants to stick with baseball. But of course, he's got a ton of offers as a running back. I was averaging about 200 yards a game last year in the COVID-shortened season. Couldn't remember if he scored 30 to 40 touchdowns. It was a lot of touchdowns. Couldn't remember how many he put up. But Justice Haynes was that is another guy to watch out. Now, of course, when you see him next to Branson Robinson, you're like, oh, he's little. He's not little. It's just the frame of reference was messed up. Just absolutely phenomenal young man to interview and great talent. So I know people think a little bit about him as a legacy, but he is going to make a name for himself quite easily. And then another legacy got an offer yesterday. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say a little side note intel here on Justice Haynes. I happen to be parked next to him in the parking lot. I know everybody makes a big deal out of, when you show up in Georgia gloves or a hoodie. He drives a black truck with a red trim on it. That's all I need. That's all I need to share on that. So
I've messaged Veron back and forth a little bit over, I guess, the last year, just as Justice is coming up. And I love how Veron is very bold in saying, would I like him to go to Georgia? Yeah, absolutely, I would. But I'm going to let him go where he wants to go. Like, that's his decision. So, I think that's a really healthy perspective on it. But, you get a lot of parents that just won't dive into that at all. And Veron's like, oh, no. I love Georgia, and if he loves Georgia, that'd be great.
Well, and that falls right in line actually with the guy that picked up the offer yesterday, because it's a very similar situation. Marcus Washington Jr., 6'1", I'd say probably closer to 6'2", if I were guessing. Pretty thickly built. 4.4 laser times at the MVP camps a couple weeks back. Came out, just dominated out there. I told Roddy when he walked in, I said, watch this kid. Look at this kid. He's going. I said, that offer's coming for sure. Like you said, it was clear that it meant something to the family. His dad took to Twitter and said, hey, this one means a little something extra because that's from the home team. So made me feel old as hell because he was there the entire – Marcus Washington was in college at the same time I was, and then he's got a kid at Rivals camp, in the 2023 class. But – special player, had a chance to talk with him after getting the offer and before, obviously, said that was one he'd have to put into heavy consideration. Said, look, I got a little bit of a legacy going on there. I've got cousins who played there. I've got my dad played there. So clearly very interested, and a kid that I think is just a tremendous talent, is going to be one of the most heavily recruited players at that position in 2023. You got to like Georgia's chances there early on.
Talk about legacy guys. I just think that's going to really be huge for us in the fact that Kirby Smart played with Veron Haynes. He played, with Mike Lucky, the Lucky triplets. There's a lot to be said about that. That evolution's getting to the point, he's 45, 46 years old. These guys are having sons that are athletes, and if you can get a few gimmies, I'm just talking about ones that you're going to get no matter what. It's hard enough to get them as it is. But two things that stick out with me. Veron Haynes was at Western Kentucky. We had all those backs here. Edwards, Patrick Pass, Alandis Gary, all those guys. He still wanted to come here because he wanted to come to Georgia. He wanted to play for his home state. And he came here, and I said, look, it's going to be tough. But he certainly – did a good job for me and did an even better job for Coach Rick. And then the same thing happened with Kendrell Bell. I said, we can't take another linebacker. And Rodney Gardner said, look, Coach, you need to watch this guy. I don't care if we have 50, we got to take this guy. And Kendrell Bell. So you never can get too many players if a guy's a difference maker. And I think the situation is such that we got a good head start on Justice. I really think things will work out good, but somebody to beat us on these kind of kids better be pretty dang good.
And it's not a situation, Coach, where you're taking a legacy just because he's a legacy. If you're getting Marcus Washington, you're getting a player. You told me years ago, look, your grandma should be able to go to a game and point out that D1 player, who has no clue what's going on. She should be able to point to him from the stands and go, that's the one. You do that when you see Marcus Washington. If you go watch a Justice Haynes game, you're going to know that, hey, that's the guy. So
Right.
they both fit that your criteria there. So getting either one of those would be huge.
That fires me up too. I like to see. I mean, you always like to see good-looking kids, but you like to see the ones that you've already have a working knowledge of it, and it's going to be good. And the one thing that I'm fired up about this camp situation for our fans, as everybody knows, June 1st, everything's opening up as far as official visits, and then there are going to be 10 camp days that kids can come up to the different camps around the country. And there won't be the big mass camps where you have a lot of little kids and all that. It'd just be almost, you can't say invitation only, but most of the guys that are coming are going to be the ones that the school wants and the kids want to show their stuff to. There's not going to be a mass amount of kids at each one of these camps, particularly the good programs like Georgia. So June 1st, that first day, my mouth.
What did you say, Coach, last week? AHBL or something like that? Is that what you mentioned last week?
Breaks loose in, but
Exactly.
I promise you one thing. Unless they got that new building locked up, the old coach's ass is going to be over there.
That's my man. That's my man. Hey, speaking of getting your ass to someplace, if you get a chance this week, swing by Academia Brewing Company, because on April 29th from 6 to 9, musician Sarah Moots will be playing out there. So they have live music all the time. Check out Sarah Moots over at Academia Brewing Company. And of course, they have fantastic food. Right, their wild mushroom burgers on. They're featuring that this week. You need to check it out. They had a VIP event this past weekend that they closed down for. Again, you can rent out the whole place if you have a big event. They have Dave and I've done shows in their meeting room over there with the giant murals. It's fantastic. It's a great place to rent for all your corporate parties. They also have a new beer called Midnight Adventure. It's a 4.9% sour ale with pomegranate, pineapple, and cherry. Talk about a great spring beer to try out. So, and of course, they always have new beers all the time. They have Trivia Tuesdays. That'll be out there tonight if you're looking for a place to go. Our buddy Nate Long's in town. Maybe he'll swing by Academia and pick up some beer on his way home. So he's chowing down right here next to us on the table. And of course, I can't mention Academia without mentioning how friendly those guys are and how helpful they are. And every time I think of friendly and helpful, I think of our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors. I had someone reach out to me the other day and said, hey, what's the name of that garage door company? And I'm like, I say it 700 times a show. Do you not listen? He's like, I listen to every show. I'm like, how do you not have it memorized by now? But it's Aaron Overhead Doors, AARON. Maybe I'm saying it too quickly, so I'll slow down a little bit. But Aaron Overhead Doors, those are our friends in North Georgia. They will take care of you. You can go book a door inspection or door quote online. Give name, phone number, zip, hit submit. It's really easy. They will come out, check out, tell you what you need. They're not going to oversell you. They're not going to say, oh, you need a whole new garage door. That is not Ryan Lucia's MO. He wants to come out and say, look, here's what we can do for you. Here's the least expensive way it can be done. Here are a couple options, but all of it will be guaranteed. If there's any problems, and you say, hey, I still have this issue, they will come out. It will be the same people. It's not going to be a big box retailer sending a different contractor every time who doesn't know what the last guy did. They have employees, not contractors. They actually have people who train with them and work with them and stay with them for years and years and years. So the guys out there know what they're doing and they will take care of you. So big shout out to our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors for taking care of us.
We do have a couple of questions this week to hop into. One of them, a lot of scuttlebutt it seems out there when it comes to the name Dan Lanning and this Kansas job. Roddy, you heard anything that way? Coach, how about you? Any buzz?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Some of these outlets are about 3 days and 14 nights behind on this thing. Dan Lanning is definitely a guy that any program is going to look at, particularly from the standpoint of he grew up in Kansas City, went to William Jewell College, has a big background in recruiting there, has been around programs that have had to, start from scratch, so to speak, when he went to Arizona State, to Pitt. Been a lot of places that had to Memphis. So his name's going to come up in the mix, but I don't think at this point it's anything for us. I mean, I'd be happy for him to get the job if he wants it, but I think at this point they're going more toward the head coaching situation. They've got Munkin from out at Army, the guy at Skip Holtz at Louisiana Tech, the Lightpole guy from Buffalo, and then Mike Elko from out at Texas A&M. Those are the 4 candidates right now that I hear are in on the job. So I don't think we need to worry about landing at this point.
Coach answered that very succinctly. I'd heard the same names. It's not to say he wouldn't be a great candidate for the job, but I do think that it's a situation where it's like, Kansas is good, but I think this guy is going to get a primo job. I think he's going to have a Kirby Smart-esque transition into a big job. That's just the take. Everybody keeps looking at Dan Lanning just like they were looking at. I mean, how many times overtures did Kirby Smart get when he was the defensive coordinator at Alabama? A ton. And I think Saban gave him some good advice. Saying, look, just hold. Don't go waste your rising star. And that's not to say Kansas would be a waste, but don't take a job that has such heavy lifting. Go to an established program that needs somebody that's going to have the money to pay you, the recruiting base, and the resources and dedication to football. And I think that he could do better than Kansas. I'm not trying to crap on Kansas. I'm just saying I think after this coming year. And you remember, we didn't think no one's going to get fired during the COVID year. No one's going to get fired during the COVID
something
year.
Changes.
Everybody got fired in the COVID
that
year.
way.
So.
And to your point, I hear many coaches when they get hired, I've heard from Georgia and from other schools as well, don't always accept your first job, accept the best job. Yeah. And that's how it works.
I do think in this case, it's easy for us to say you can do a lot better than Kansas. I mean, I understand that. But I also feel like in Dan Lanning's case, it's home to him. His parents live
Very
there.
True.
He's got a tremendous amount of knowledge about the situation. So you just can't just typecast. I'm not saying what you said. You just can't. You make a great point. That he would. Why don't you wait? I think.
Are you calling him Dorothy? Just wants to go back home to Kansas? Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
You calling him Dorothy and just wants to go back home to Kansas?
No, I don't think it's that. But I do feel like he's not going to blow in there and take over the job. That's for sure. So you catch that. I mean, of
course, there is the thing. If you take over one of the really tough schools, expectations are through the roof.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, listen, I'll crap on Kansas. Kansas is a hard-ass job, man. That's ridiculous. I mean, how long ago does it feel like the Mark Mangino era happened? I mean, that feels as distant as
it did happen. It did happen.
I know, but I'm telling
there's evidence. It's proof.
And growing up, Dan went to camp over there. That's his area. So there's nothing wrong with him checking it out.
I grew up in Conyers, but I'm not taking the job at Rockdale County High School anytime soon. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to, but no, they have much better options down there. But it's just because it's home doesn't mean you're always in a hurry to go back. But he would be, and that's a testament to him. He's well loved by that. And again, we saw how Memphis was really looking at him. So Dan's going to have a ton of options, and he could have one close to home. It would not shock me.
And UCF looked at him too. The thing that happens that's been so good about Zoom is you get a lot more interviews now than you used to.
Yep.
I mean,
and it's harder for us to stake out an airport like we used to.
I mean, like the first day I heard Kansas talk like to 8 guys.
Unbelievable.
You're going to look back at Georgia's staff in like 3 or 4 years, and you're going to see a ton of head coaches that have been on Georgia's staff. There's a lot of these guys that are being coveted for head coaching jobs throughout the country.
Yeah,
and technically, and that's a good thing to have. I mean, sure. you don't want coaches that know what it wants.
Hey, that's why it's 2021 or bust, baby.
Resign yourself to losing Dan Lanning. That's
Todd Monken.
I put that
Lanning, Monken, and McGee.
Dale McGee.
All three really good.
Dale McGee is like he's a hot commodity. I mean,
Matt Luke.
Coach Luke's already been the head coach, so we'll see how that goes. Todd Hartley interviewed for the
we probably missed one or two.
Scott.
Todd Hartley
Goes on and on and
Marshall
on.
job.
Will Muschamp.
Did y'all know that Todd Hartley
Somebody
interviewed for
unsubscribe me
Marshall
right
job?
now.
Did y'all know that Todd Hartley interviewed for the Marshall job?
I heard that.
Remember that.
We may have put that on the board at some point.
But he'll never be the greatest Marshall coach of all time, though.
No, he'll never be the greatest Marshall coach of all.
I don't know.
And I'm not talking about Jack Langville.
All right, Jake, get some of the other questions there too.
All right. We do have a couple people want to talk about draft predictions for the group. How many UGA players do you think get taken in the draft this week? Interesting question.
In the analysis we've done, there's 11 that are draft eligible. If you're not counting Jamie Newman, he never played a game for Georgia, so it would be 11. I think you're probably looking at 9 guys.
9. That would be a Georgia record.
I think most will be in the late rounds. If you're talking first
Which
3
happens.
rounds, you're looking at 3 guys.
I'm going to say 7.
I'm going to say somewhere between 6 and 7 as well.
I'll say 8 just to be a contrarian and shoot in the middle of you guys.
Which would tie a record.
But I think it's going to be a fruitful draft for Georgia. And like you said, Dane, I think it'll be later round guys for the most part in this draft. The lone exception to that, I think, being Azeez Ojulari. To me, Stokes and Campbell are 2 of those guys that, who knows how teams are feeling 2 days out of this thing. I don't think that they'll necessarily find their way into the first round, but, with speed merchants like that and at such a premium position in the NFL right now, all it takes is one guy to fall in love with you. And so, I think both of those guys could see their stock improve by the time day 2 rolls around.
I was surprised by looking at it. Last time Georgia had 2 corners taken in one NFL draft was 2013. I would think they've had good corners lately. You think there'll be more than one drafted in a time period, but last time they had 2 corners in 2013.
Yeah,
So
I think both these guys will go in the first 3 rounds. Alargy will, Hill and Cleveland anywhere from 4 to 6, and then we'll see what happens with Webb. He can play special teams. I mean, it's going to be a good draft. I'm
What
looking
about Monty Rice and Richard McCown, Coach? Think they get drafted?
McCown's a really interesting one because
that's my 7. There's those 2 added to.
They're going to get
Cleveland.
drafted. They'll
Yeah.
get drafted.
So that's 7.
And Dane mentioned all these late picks. It'll be kind of cool to have another Mr. Irrelevant back-to-back years.
Yeah, no doubt. I honestly, I'd like this, and I think I'd love to see somebody take a flyer on Malik Herring, in a late 6th, 7th round.
McKitty get drafted. McKitty's going to get drafted too.
Yeah.
I think DJ Daniels got a good shot to make a roster that way too in a late round.
So if you get DJ Daniels, or Trey McKitty, either one of those 2 guys, that gives you 8, then possibly 9.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's
there's definitely a possibility for 9. I'm not disagreeing with Dane on that part, but I think the draft is never as what you think it's going to happen.
Well, to me, I think these guys should get drafted, but I have so many years of watching going, why didn't somebody take that Georgia player who I think could play on Sundays? I'm just so used to being confused after it's all over.
All we know is that
I think it'll be 9.
Yeah.
I'm predicting 7.
all we know is the Falcons won't draft a Georgia player because they hardly ever do.
The big question now after our talk is who's San Francisco going to take at number 3? Which quarterback? I mean, are they going to take Lance or Fields or Mac Jones? So
Take Fields.
You'd think, but
It seems so simple, but
It
like
does to me.
the whole
I do not understand this. Take
Fields should be
Oh
2.
my God, you moron! Yes.
I saw Chris Sims today released his mock draft had Justin Fields at pick number 32.
Oof.
Well, he's
The 5th
that's
quarterback.
not what. No.
You need to jump out of a plane without a parachute. I'm just telling you, that's just not. Do not understand that.
I think Chris Sims gets up every day and figures out how can I really piss some people off.
There's a lot of broadcasters that seem like they're that way.
He's got a lot of good ideas, but I mean, he will definitely get out on a limb now compared to some of these guys. And
I mean, what has Justin Fields not done? I don't get it. That's
I
nothing
guess,
against the other
I guess
guys.
won the title or the Heisman, and he was in both. So
he missed that 7th touchdown against.
Yeah, just a complete obvious bust right there, But hey, I still remember the whole Ryan Leaf debacle. So I just
I want to be sure that we give a shout out before the show ends to the interview that Coach and I did yesterday with Mac Brown. So it is on this YouTube channel. If you're watching us, it is on the podcast feed. If you're listening to us, make sure you check it out because it was one of the more insightful looks into what it's like doing roster management in college football that I've heard. It was just so candid and honest, and it helps that he has a good friendship with you, Coach.
One Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer, with Dane being our UGASports Hall of Famer. So that's 3 Hall of Famers right there.
One of the things I talked to Roddy about is just trying to get more content, which we got plenty of it, but trying to, in this downtime, have as much content as we can. And I hope these fans will.
Is that Mac right there?
That's what we're trying to do here. And I think over the next few months, we're going to have some interviews with some guys like that. And if anybody's got any suggestions, tell Roddy or direct message him or do something, and we'll try to get them on. But it's pretty easy to do. And another thing we're trying to do.
Why don't you get Nick Saban?
It's pretty easy to do. You see that like everybody has Mac Brown's phone number.
We're gonna work on Nick and Dabo. We're working on Dabo to preview the Clemson game. I'm a little tease
that would
on
be filthy. That would be filthy if we get him on.
Well, you can Booker T. Washington. That's going to be.
Oh no.
But I'm going to tell you this though about the one thing that we were trying to do too is I'm a great believer in these Olympic sports that we have at UGA. I've seen the way these coaches coach and all, and Roddy's given us the permission to work with Dane here, and we've got some interviews coming up with Jeff Wallace and Manny Diaz and Coach Bowerly, just to let our fans get a little bit more insight into what these programs. I mean, you can say what you want to, but the women's tennis team at the University of Georgia have won 32 straight dual matches against SEC competition over the last 3 years. Played for the national championship 2 years ago, didn't get to play last year, and they've got a really good shot of winning it this year. So that's pretty dang good. And then men, you know what they've done over the years. They've had a lot of injuries, but listen to these two things we're going to have Thursday and Friday, and let give these guys a chance to tell you about their program.
Well, and I wanted to run this by you, Jake, because I texted you about it in our group meet. But one thing that Mac Brown said that I guess I didn't realize, he was saying that the NCAA after, I guess, next year, so for the class of 2022, they're going to force rosters to be back at 85. And that's after everyone gets the free year from COVID. So he's going to have essentially 2 classes of freshmen and then welcoming in a new class. He said that there's going to be some programs that only take 5 players, maybe some that take 10 players because of what the roster looks like for that cap. That would just be almost catastrophic for that class, right?
Oh, no question about it. And those kids better be playing their cards right. That's all I can say about them, because they better be. If you get an offer and you get a committable offer and it's where you want to be, you better jump on it. That's the move right there. But I'll tell you this. Kirby Smart will figure out a way to take 25 kids. It won't.
He always does.
And Alabama will take 40.
Coach stole my line.
Blue shirt. You.
He has every color shirt possible for
How
Nick
many
Saban.
different color shirts does Saban have down there?
They got a whole blue shirt team over there. That's their B team.
It used to remind me that we used to get so mad at Nebraska. I mean, I Am Hip was a walk-on running back from Columbia, South Carolina for them. And what they would do, you can say it now. Let's just say you're a Nebraska 4th-year guy getting ready to go into your 5th year. They had this bank there, Lincoln National Bank, that would hire these guys to go to work and help them pay for their scholarship, and they'd give up their scholarship, and then they just had this walk-on program where guys became scholarship players. It was unreal, and they were stacked up like cordwood. I mean, over 100. When they practiced, they had 2 different practices every day. I mean, so everybody could practice. Wow. But we still whipped their ass.
That was a long setup. I like the payoff.
Well, here's a note that I did not realize, and it happens early in the interview with Mac Brown. Guess who coached Mac Brown when he was a player?
I don't know, but I bet he's on this panel.
It's not me. It's not Roddy. Not Jake. Not Dane.
Context clues, man.
That really makes me feel old. You know, Mac went to Vanderbilt. His brother Watson went to Vanderbilt before him, and Mac decided to go there. And then he knew Coach Steve Sloan from Alabama, and Steve went down to FSU, and Mac transferred in there, and I was ended up going down there to coach. And my first year, Mac was senior running back there, and he was solid, man. He could catch the ball out of the backfield, and very heady guy. And then I helped him get his first job with Bobby Collins at Southern Miss, because Bobby had coached with me at North Carolina, and then Donnie Duncan hired him out at Iowa State through Coach Switzer, and then Coach Switzer hired him at OU. So we've stayed up together for a long time.
It shows in the interview, because Mac is very relaxed. It's a fantastic. I know a lot of you might have some Georgia people going, "Oh, he's in North Carolina." This is the guy that was at Texas. This is the guy that's at North Carolina. Turned that program around, takes them to a bowl game they haven't seen in 50 years. You're going head to head with them for some of the best players in the state of North Carolina and throughout the Southeast. I mean, that Travis Shaw recruitment is going to come down to North Carolina and Georgia, in my opinion. You know, they thought they were getting Jalen Walker. He's coming to Georgia. Here's a guy you're going with head to head. It's a great insight into what he's doing in North Carolina, a team that you're going to have to face, you know, on the recruiting trail. And it's just really entertaining because he's relaxed. He's talking, as Dane says, it's just candid. It's not just coach speak. It's a fantastic interview. And
and frankly, in college football, the last 5 national champions have had first-round pick quarterbacks. Sam Howell is very likely going to be a first-round pick quarterback. So if you're using that as a basic metric, North Carolina is in a national championship hunt.
He's more than just a first rounder. He's going to be close to the top.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, check that out. And, of course, check out all the content at UGASports.com. We have more stories coming from this camp this past Saturday. Of course, we cover baseball. The Jeff Wallace interview will be great. Congratulations, Coach Wallace, and the ladies out there for winning the SEC title again. So we'll be looking forward to their national title run. Georgia baseball is hot and heavy tonight.
They play Tech.
They host Tech tonight and Tuesday. This weekend they host Auburn. They have a murderer's row. They're ranked now. They're back to 99 in the SEC conference standings. They have an absolute murderer's row to finish out the season, but baseball is going to be hot and heavy here as usual. And we have all that covered at UGASports.com with, again, exclusive recruiting content you won't find anywhere else, and exclusive podcasts you won't find anywhere else. So now's a good time to be a member of UGASports.com. Before we take off, I want to give a big shout out to your friend Ronnie Brown at DR Construction Maintenance down in South Georgia. If you're in the Liberty County area, Long County area, or Bryan County area, when you're done watching the draft, because you're trying to see your boy Richard LeCount get drafted out of Liberty County, be sure to reach out to Ronnie Brown at DR Construction Maintenance and use them to help you around the house, rebuild anything you need built, any construction you want done. Those guys will take care of it, and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. Anything else you guys want to mention before we take off?
Good for me.
I'll take that as a no. Jake talked more today than he has in like 6 weeks.
What do you guys what are you having to eat out there today at that new place?
I'm having smoked chicken. So as soon as I kick off the show here, they get this great smoker in the back, and it's a new menu item. It's of course a fried chicken. You remember, a lot of people don't know that. I'm embarrassed to say this, but a lot of people don't realize there's a difference between a chicken tender and chicken breast. You know, chicken tenders, there's only 2 of them. They do tenders out here. They do them fried. They fry them when you get here. They don't have them sitting under a heat lamp. All their stuff is cooked to order. But the smoked chicken, that is the new thing that I can't wait to try, because I've had their smoked barbecue out here. It's great.
I mean, I've had the pork and the chicken many, many times. And like I said, I even had a salad here. But I've never had the sliders, and the sliders, I mean, that's something
menu item too.
That's something that I didn't expect. Now, I've ate here before, and Josh and Amy has hooked us up, and with some red meat and stuff like that, and it's delicious. So I'm expecting it delicious here also for the sliders.
Yeah, I'm watching Nate Long chow down like 4 feet from me, and it's killing me. I'm going to reach over and steal all the food off his plate. So anyway, we got to go because we're hungry. So everybody tune in next Tuesday. We will talk to you then, and we'll have some more recruiting updates and more Georgia Bulldogs talk. See you next week.